was not purposeful. When the quarter ended, I was completely like, felt like someone had wrung me dry, and then had 20 people, proceeded to have 20 people over for the 4th of July, and
Yeah.
then tried to go back to work this week, and I've been decimated.
Life is chaos. And in many ways, life can be suffering too. So it's just like, choose your suffering, be okay with it, but how do you rise above it a bit so that you're not beat down by the chaos? You can maintain a level of control. And I think in essence, that is our daily job. Some days it's just going to be crazy. It's going to be nice and calm and smooth. How we ride those waves is up to the quality of our systems and coming back to a system that we know we can rely on. And that's the job.
Yeah, no, it is. You're right. And it's like, if I look at the last month, the quarter, wasn't sleeping well, wasn't eating well, stressed at all ends, right? Like push, 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 meeting after meeting after meeting, right? Didn't take care of myself. Ran that into the following week of 4th of July. And then
Yeah.
this week I've just basically crashed. Like yesterday, I just told my boss, I'm like, I'm taking the day off. Spent the day
Yeah.
sleeping.
Kudos to you for recognizing that, right? A big mistake that a lot of people make is just pushing through it. You didn't push through it. You stepped away. You caught up on the sleep. It's hard making those decisions, but you made the right one, and now you're in a better place for it.
Absolutely. And I did the same thing this afternoon. I'm like, you want to know what? I need to take care of my body. And so like I worked all day. And
Yep.
then this afternoon, I'm like, listen, I need a break. Like I'll get
Yeah.
back to it later, but like the next
Yeah.
2 hours, I'm shutting off. But I got the beginning part of that deal closed.
Nice. Congrats.
Now it's about that next step of this that we started working on, which is the larger opportunity, is a $500,000 plus. And really, if we start taking this to a transformative level, from what we were talking about, where we bridge it into customer service and we show the whole entire picture of everything, right? And I present that, it's $2 million, $1.5 million, $2 million. But more
Yep.
importantly than that, it's what we can do for them, right? Like to think about for them to deflect the majority of all calls coming in, because guys out in the field know what's going on and what they
Yep.
need to do. And then that being related back to the customer support team that could actually be sending the emails or notifications out that we know there's an outage in your area. We are on top of it. We will be on top of it for you, right? Instead of the
Yep.
client calling in.
That's an awesome vision. And that's honestly, they should be running their business. Are they telling you that's a great idea? Let's figure it out. Or, hey, let's hold off on that. That's going to be another person's area of expertise.
No, and he's all in on it. And he really is a true mobilizer, because at the end of the day, he got this deal done for us.
Yeah.
Right? This beginning deal where we were in a stalemate, going
Yep.
back and forth of legal and things that they were asking for, and
Yep.
areas that we weren't willing to cave on, and they weren't willing to cave on, and helped us get to a middle ground so that we could get this first part done. And
Yep.
he's told me numerous times, just like, let's show the value now. Now let's get to work and show the value so that we can go to the next level.
Okay. So what does that look like for you guys for over the next, say, 6 months?
Yeah. So if I start thinking about that and mapping that out, right? First step is that we're getting live within another couple of days. We were supposed to be live by tomorrow, but that delay is not because of us. It's delay is because of them, right? So we'll have them live probably next week, and then instantly being able to start tracking results from that. So within a month from now, from the time they go live, for us to be able to have those first data points put together, that when I can then start using for the rest of the organization to go to and be like, hey, listen, like this isn't about, this is what we've done with, and if we want to reach this end goal, we can do it across all these other applications, which there's another 100 applications in purview.
That's good. And what will fuel that, again, coming back to the Mint's framework, is, has the vision been fleshed out in a narrative that you and worked on, saying, let's forget about the data points right now. Let's forget about the technical feasibility and the key integrations. Let's just talk about the vision. Has that been laid out in a narrative format where it's just like, let's explain so other people can feel it maybe emotionally when they read it internally? This is the experience that we're trying to create. Has that been worked on with?
No, and that's a great point. And I was thinking about that too. That's something that's like I have to start doing with him. And so I have to get a meeting with for next week. And I will have that as part of like, the vision. It would be a vision meeting, I'll call it with him. For us to start hashing that out and discussing it. And what I'll do is I'll come kind of with one pager of never have a client call in again
Yep.
and why that matters. Right.
Yep.
And then what does that mean for the organization? If you can get to that point, right? That clients are not calling in, they're being updated all the time. That means, better retention, no loss of clients, the last mile initiative is smoother, right? Like all these things that I know that tick and tie to that, and putting that together and just putting it out there and be like, hey, listen, this is what I was thinking about, right? As we were talking.
That's exactly it. You got to take what you just explained in your head and what's probably in his head as well and cement it. And that's why the writing piece, right? As you heard on Monday from Aaron, right? I think the PRFAQ would be the right format for this. One, it's easier cognitively for you to just think through a one-page press release. Let me write this in the future. Put a date on it. It could be a year from now. It could be 3 years from now. I wouldn't do it too far out, but something that feels realistic, but also bold. So like starting to get a feeling from you, holy shit, this guy is really serious. And this company is serious about changing our business. And here is somebody who is lining that up. Again, that press release doesn't have to be perfect. It's a first iteration, but it's got to be good enough where he feels the invitation to want to say, okay, let's change this, let's do this, right? And then it's a natural invitation to, what we're doing is crafting the business case. The classic Fluent, what Nate Nasrallah talks about, and this is how these large strategic opportunities are done. And you're giving him keys, you're enabling him because he's a true mobilizer to be able to go articulate this when you're not in the room. And now you reduce the burden on yourself, that you're not needing this meeting, all this deck for this group over here. The narrative does the talking for you, does the work. So start with the framework, the design thinking. You got to start with an emotional connection first. That classic Aristotle persuasion triangle. Credibility is already there because the agreement's done, right? You guys have agreed to come together as two partner companies. Now the emotional connection will lead to the logical, how is this done? Integrations, the workforce coming together, the strategy, all those things. That'll take care of itself if you satisfy the emotional component of letting them just read it like it's a story and it's in a future state. And then you use those FAQs to be the invitation to, how is this done? Here are the data points that make this necessary. Here are the integration points. Here's the key steps, right? So that then starts to be literally the nexus for your strategy of working together as a team to bring a business case to life.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that is right in line with how operates. I've seen it from how he engages, right? Like what he thinks about, like he's thinking future state. How do I get there? What does it mean? What does it look like? What do I need to do? And what's the benefit and what's the payoff?
So we know this is how he wants it. We know this is going to work. It does work. So now let's get tactical. Let me hold you accountable. When are you going to write this?
I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm in Charlotte for a QBR, so I'll have it done by Friday. I'll have it to you by Friday.
Okay, cool. And block it out, 25-minute intervals, right? This might take a few hours, even if it's a first draft. I would be thoughtful about your plane rides, being purposeful with your performance. Okay, if I have a 2-hour flight, perfect time to Just pull it out, get the Google Doc set up on offline mode in case internet's not working. Again, be purposeful with everything that you're thinking about, and you're working backwards from in state is to flesh out a PRFAQ first draft, Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Then you got to look at your calendar and then just plot in, right? Let's just say, give myself 3 hours to complete this thing. I might not be able to do it all in one shot. So let's just do 25 minutes each morning that I'll block off before I check email, before I hop on Slack, before I have my first meeting. And I will not do anything else until I get up, I warm myself up, have my call, whatever it is to get myself going for the day. But that is the first thing that I am contributing to before I contribute to anything else. Then keep yourself disciplined until that's done. So I would literally block, I would put them on your calendar. It's the first hour of your workday between now and next Friday. That way it's just scheduled, and it's like an appointment that you're making with your future self. It would be no different than if said, I need a half hour with you on Tuesday to talk through something. We got to make it that level of commitment that you're going to do that work, because it's so easy to let this stuff fall through the cracks because it kind of feels nebulous. That's how your system will work for you.
I agree with you 100% because the last minute stress is not worth the juice, right? It's horrible.
And it won't create quality work either.
No, half-assed work.
Right? Yeah, you're not in the right frame of mind, and it's just like, I don't feel like doing this. And then you're just churning something out to churn it out. But if you go ahead and design it now you allow yourself a little bit of freedom because you've got quiet time. No other things have come crowding your schedule yet. You can unleash that creativity while you've blocked it off and you've protected that time as sacred.
Yeah, I agree with you. I want us to close this deal together, right? This is a multi-7-figure deal, right? And this is what we've been working for.
What would that satisfy against your quota?
Just that would double my quota.
What you'll be able to do is that way of working will also start to replace this sort of old way of working, a way we've been pressured into creating these QBRs for the past 2020 numbers related. So activity, we've got 5x our pipe. And I would really argue good leaders don't want that anyways. They really want to see you peel back the onion and be thoughtful. So now you'll start to redesign the way you want to operate within the organization. And then it's like you set a new standard. And then it's like, this is kind of cool. Granted, it takes this first win to give you the confidence to do that. But I'm just sort of giving you a glimpse into the future states that when we work backwards from your ideal life that you're trying to design for, you want a certain level of net worth, right? This is how you're connecting all the dots, right? And it's not foo-foo stuff. It's literally writing it out starts to become how you operate your business. And by doing that, then you can become crystal clear on those finite resources I talk about all the time, your energy, your attention. Now you know, okay, what do I give my attention to? Boss telling me like what he wants because, it's operating in this sort of nebulous place, or do I know what I need to do because it's worked, it's proven? I'm going to do that. I'm going to focus my attention on that. Okay, I've got QBRs, I've got these on my calendar. Now you just look at your calendar and you time block. So that you become smarter about your time. And then your energy, same thing, right? Now you know the rhythms because maybe you're tracking your sleep a little bit and you're saying like, yeah, I just came out of a large party for 4th of July and I need to take time off, right? So you're now just becoming more purposeful with these resources that people just seem to forget about, right? That it's just endless. It's activity. It's 5x pipeline, and we can get 20% year over year, quarter over quarter growth. Now you're just saying, nope, like redesigning a whole new way from the ground up. That is actually more enjoyable and more impactful because wants to work like this. Mobilizer over it would love to see a one page of a vision written out, and then a second page inviting them into how do we make this vision come to life? Okay, let's get to work. Let's set up a design session for 3 hours. Let's work through it, right? And then that's how you qualify your pipeline. Not, okay, this is an account that my CEO wants, and I don't know, I'll estimate that, we'll go in with 200K and then we'll expand it, with no thought or basis behind it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. When I was going through and doing that QBR deck too, it made me realize is that I don't want to work on anything less than that, right?
Yeah.
Like it was like $850,000 in total ACV, right, over 3 years. And I'm like I can do it,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, and I don't, quite frankly, I don't really want 20 deals in my pipe. It's just not, it's not fun.
Yeah, it's one that's not fun, but it's also not realistic. It's just
It's
not
not.
or year over year over year, honestly. Like, yeah, if you just went in and had like a year mentality, and unfortunately that's how a lot of companies operate, right? They make you feel like shit after a quarter, right? When you start back at zero, or for the year. But really what the business needs is you to have fun. It needs you to really take ownership of your account list like it's your business. And if you had the ability to work it in a really smart way and then teach the company, this is the way my business runs, I think they would respect you a lot more. It's a bottom up and a top down approach. If they could just get real on that or really embrace it, then quota attainments will rise, the burnout will decrease, the turnover and the costs of that turnover will decrease as well. And everybody's sort of happy. It is simple, but it's not easy. And it takes purposeful performance. It takes you being purposeful to buck the trend a little bit here, stay focused on the core principles, stay close with my customers. What do they want? Well, writing a narrative with them that outlines the strategy. Well, that's a pretty effective way to do it because people can share that internally. They can put their input and their handprint on it. It keeps us aligned, right? In every meeting, this is the vision that we're working towards by X and X dates. We identified in the FAQs. And so now you're not selling, you're orchestrating, you're designing, and that puts you in this level of expertise that is both fulfilling for you and highly profitable for the business and yourself.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I won a lot of good recognition because on this deal I had to work with who was our SVP of worldwide. Because that's, I mean, like things that had to get done had to go up to the highest level. And so I was working back and forth with him on it. And I get distinct sense just from like feedback that I've heard and stuff like that like not respect, but like I've earned the right to now operate in a different way.
Yep.
He was on calls with me on negotiation calls. He was on hard calls with me where I had to negotiate. He was on the calls where not only negotiating, but also talking to the client about what we're trying to achieve and what we want to do and how we do that, and that this is the first step, right? Mm-hmm. So he was on all those calls and heard all that. And I think it just put me in a different perspective that will lead to me to be able to do what I want to do.
Now the job is to manage the chaos, that's inevitable, manage the suffering, that's inevitable, and figure out how to be really purposeful and smart with your time, energy, and attention, because those are the pieces of the puzzle that you just would need to put together. And now just keep going until this narrative gets built. Then the narrative turns into the business case. Then the business case turns into a proposal, and then it becomes a signed deal, and the signed deal becomes the project plan, right? And
yeah,
then you're just like, all those things come along for the ride. Your reputation within the organization, your stock starts to go up, your commission, your bank account, and all those things are just natural outcomes. You never have to worry about them so much anymore. You just worry about, where do I focus my time, energy, and attention in the most purposeful way that gets me these results, and it gets me feeling good. I like the process of it. Instead of it feeling work, this is now turned into a fun game I get to play. Not saying it's not an easy game, it's a hard game, but because you've been thoughtful about it and you have good systems in place, you have a level of control that doesn't weigh you down.
I want to get into that position, Brandon, where I can be like where you were at when you were a live person, where I am a strategic account executive now. I have a much higher base salary, higher overall everything, right? Obviously, that comes with a larger quota, but I want to have proven this whole model in this quarter, what we're talking about, so that like that's all solidified.
That goes back to the session on Monday. They're not separate.
They're
They're
all
just
together.
that bold vision, those things that you say are important. They're important for a reason, right? It's the writing that gives it the respect. Instead of just saying, hey, that's important, or being a strategic account executive, having the reputation, having stock option, give it the respect by writing it out. You got to free up time to do that. It's going to take energy. So you got to be in a state where you actually want to do that work, and you can't be distracted. Again, you're just managing these resources that we all deal with. Some just do it better than others. So how do you be a world-class champion at managing your time, energy, and attention that then will bring in more money, that then you can start to leverage that money to play more infinite games? And that's what it becomes about. But if you don't take these things floating in your head and put them into a more concrete place where it's front and center, I'm constantly revisiting it. Now, what I do next, how I make my decisions, it becomes so crystal clear. What I say yes to, what I say no to. You're constantly making those correct decisions. The natural output is everything that you want.
You're 100% right. 100% right.
Create that future email and know how to write to your future self. Well, that's the skill set that you'll also use when creating the PRFAQ with, okay, so we're on the same page. You're going to have PRFAQ for a broader vision next Friday. You're going to block out the time to actually have that on your calendar. And I recommend doing it first thing. Your calendar, it's the most ubiquitous tool all of us use. It should feel like a game console, because that's what's going to keep you accountable. One suggestion that stands out to me when I look at your calendar is color coding might be an easier way for you to identify, okay, what's a meeting, what is important, what's tied to revenue, what's personal. So I would suggest come up with a color scheme that makes sense to you. And what's cool about Google Calendar is you can also associate things with the time insights. I'm not suggesting you have to take exactly what I do, but for me, red is, I need that to stand out because I can't miss those. Those are appointments or meetings. Dark green means that's important work for me. That's leading to the outcomes or really specific routines of that I'm trying to hold sacred on my calendar to work through. Light green is more of like, it's a step down. It's maybe a nice to have. I associate green always with money. So high value activities, revenue generating activities, that's where the green comes from. So green always signifies to me, this is the stuff that's going to build the business, scale the business, make money, grow, and it needs my attention and focus. And then you have these time insights over here. So you can label these things by color. I can see like, okay, I scheduled 20.5 hours of deep work on my calendar. I've got these anchor routines that are like absolute must, can't miss those. I've got 4.5 hours of workouts scheduled. Now, what's unfortunate is that's just based on hypotheticals. It doesn't necessarily show you actuality. This is a good foundation. Even if you didn't use any other tools but your calendar and you just added a color scheme to it, to one of my other Diamond program members starts everything in purple that are like what I would have in green, but he turns them green. What's cool about that is he starts ahead of the week in a default state. He uses purple. And then he turns it green once he's actually done the thing that he's scheduled and said he's going to do. That way, then when he looks at his insights, he's like, okay, if it's green, I know I've done a high value activity. And for me, a high value activity equals revenue generation. That could be account research. It could be anything that drives. It's not going to be admin, though. It's not going to be cleaning up Salesforce. So I'll have a different color for those kinds of things. Now his calendar is his game console. He's got everything up here in his tabs, one touch away, all of his accounts, and he can click into what are the things I need to do. He has like a checklist to prepare for a meeting. I've got to do this account research. I've got to have an internal meeting with my team. At the beginning of the week, he'll plot all that out, and then he'll turn them green as he does them. And then he can reflect back on the end of the week saying, yes, I got 90% of my high value activities done. I've flipped 90% from purple to green. And then he can correlate that to his actual results, like the revenue for those opportunities or the numbers at the end of the quarter, to be like, okay, when I'm 80% of turning purple to green, I know that's a good week. If I'm below 80%, and I'm just making this up, I'm going to have to play catch up the following week kind of thing. So even if you just used the native Google Calendar with a little bit of a color coding scheme and upgrade, makes the work fun. I would just start there. I could take this even more advanced and Sama and how I use that, but I won't even go there.
I like that. I think I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to pick everything as a starting color, and then I'm going to pick the color that means the most to me. And those are going to be the colors that it gets turned to.
I would suggest your meetings, those are always going to be a certain color. So maybe give them a designated color, because the stuff that you have to do when you look back on your week, how successful were you? All you have to do is look at the colors. We call it, me and Himanshu, I greened out my calendar. Awesome. Much. 85%. Okay. Well, then he knows that system is serving him well. He is trending in the right direction. He doesn't have to think about anything else. I greened out my calendar. He's smart enough to know like what the high value activities are. You know what the high value activities are. We just talked about, creating the narrative, architecting the peer FAQ. So that number, your big number at the end of the year, right? You'll go from 34% quota attainment to, maybe 150 plus.
Now, I can see where I can get to 300% to the year. I know how I can get to $3.5–4 million. Where I make my $1 million this year. I know the deal already.
What Himanshu has also done really well is he shares his calendar. He obviously doesn't share maybe private stuff, but he can share his calendar with his leaders on one-on-ones. And then he's trained his leaders to be like, yeah, I can have 5X pipeline, because look at my calendar. I've got to prep for these big accounts, all these high value activities, even though that might not show up in your reporting in Gong or Salesforce. These are really important things that I'm spending my time on that I have to do. I've got to connect with this SDR. This is what we're talking about. I've got to prepare for the team to be ready for this demo and so forth. Now he is given the freedom to work his system. The level of green that's being put on his calendar each week is the indicator. Now I don't have to guess. I know when I turn my calendar green, the opportunity value, the deals, the win rates, all that stuff starts to take care of themselves. All I need to focus on, turn the calendar green every week.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. I need to put myself much more front and center. And that doesn't mean work, right? Mm-hmm. That means me emotionally, physically, my relationship with my wife, with my child, time off, right? Like, I mean, I was so heads down and so consumed with work the last month that like when that deal was done and it finally came in, I was just exhausted. It wasn't even like, Brendan, it wasn't even like, yes, we got it, right? I was just like, oh, so glad it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want it to be that way.
Yeah.
And so that's really what's been on my mind a lot, right? So like, not only around designing that, but like and I'll share it with you because I'm gonna have it done by next week too as well. I'll put that on the list too as well. Like I'm gonna design my what I'm gonna do for myself too as well, and how I'm going to put myself front and center so that I can be the best possible purposeful performer there is.
Human first, professional second, all the time.
Yeah.
When you put quality effort into making sure that the human side, I always think of it as like a battery that, we're always depleting it. And if we don't recharge it, then the professional side is going to suffer, right?
Yeah.
But what we try to do is we put the professional side first, and the human battery is always depleted. At some point, right, the professional is going to stop working because it relies on the human battery. So just switch them. You'll be a much better professional performer if you're treating yourself well.
Yeah. And in the last month of the quarter, I didn't treat myself well at all. And I was I was beyond E. Like I was a crumpled up, like, you know what I mean? Like shriveled up prune at the end of it. So,
Yeah.
and I can't do that again. Can't happen.
There are going to be cycles. You got to make trade-offs, right? But at one point in the evolution of your purposeful performance transformation, you'll start to be clear with that because of your system, because of how you can look back and say, oh, my calendar tells a story here. Right now, the calendar is hard to tell a story because it's all blue.
Yeah.
You couldn't look back 2 weeks ago and tell me what happened. You have to read each one.
Yeah.
But what if a lot of it was green? You could tell me exactly in 30 seconds. So imagine just those simple tweaks, right? That's where it's like, okay, I've got to be a little more thoughtful and invest a little more time, just like you have to invest a little more time in writing out a vision for yourself. Do that hard work. That 3 hours of writing that vision out can save you thousands of hours over time, because now you're just going into this next month or this quarter, I'm going to operate this way. Now you're just making small incremental tweaks the next month or the next quarter versus a wholesale, I'm exhausted. I don't know how I just grinded my way to get that deal done. Ugh. Oh, I need like 2 weeks of recovery and then I'm going to go back into the 5X my pipeline. Oh, how am I going to get my number?
Yeah, I'm not playing that monkey mouse game anymore.
Yeah. And then you're just on the treadmill.
Yeah.
Constantly.
100%. So. All right, cool.
All right, man. Well, cool. Hopefully that's some valuable little
extremely pieces. Valuable, and I will have that stuff for you by Friday.
Okay. Sounds good, man.
All right. Enjoy the place, man.
All right. Thanks. Good luck. Bye. Take care.